tattoo artists were kind of the same way, which is a little scary because we're certainly not qualified to be therapists. But she opened up to me. And all the things that she had told me over that year, I would have very easily been able to justify her going away, finding a little house on a lake somewhere, and living out the rest of her life like a hermit, and not working with society, not being a part of society. But she said that's not what she wanted to do. She wanted to turn that horrific mess into something positive. So she started talking to me and brainstorming with me, and I would just hear her out. She was very passionate about making an impact, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. She called me up about 3 months later after I did her last tattoo removal session, and she was telling me about a vote that was taking place. She lives up in Wisconsin, I can say that. Can't say specifically where, but she's in Wisconsin. She wrote this program out called John School. John School is an equivalent to when people get a DUI and they have to take 8 weeks of classes about alcohol and drinking and driving and all that goes along with it. John School is that for prostitution. People who are picked up for soliciting prostitution. So she wrote this amazing curriculum for 8 weeks. These predators have to go and take this class as a requirement of the court. And I was amazed. She sent me a copy of it to read through it. And she asked me if I'd share some pictures with them of my work and stuff, so we did that. Then I got a phone call about 2 months later, and she said, "Hey, can you come up to Wisconsin? I want you to check out this class and see what you think, see if it's impactful." I said, "Sure, I'll come check it out." I went there, and because of Chicago traffic, I was probably about 15 minutes late getting there. I walk in the door of an auditorium, probably twice the size of this, full of all men that were arrested for solicitation of prostitution. And down at the podium, I see little Nicole. She's teaching this class. She's turning her tragedy into something triumphant and sharing her pain and what she went through to help these Johns, the buyers of sex, understand the impact on her life and the others that they tried to victimize. Because when people are arrested for solicitation of prostitution, it's not typically the first time it's happened, it's the first time they've been caught. So she does an amazing job with that. One of the other trends I talked about gangs that we're seeing, I hate to have to even say this because it's disgusting. Pimps would always say they didn't want to deface the product. The product is the face. They would never put the tattoos on the face. Now that we're seeing the proliferation of gangs and the sex trafficking, they don't care. Okay? Gangs proudly wear their tattoos on their face. It's something that I can never understand. As hard as I try to, I could never understand why people would want to tattoo their face, especially when they're committing crime on a daily basis. Makes it kind of easy to be spotted in the lineup. But this was a young woman who, I'm going to show you one of her other tattoos here in a second, but this was a removal. I don't do laser tattoo removal. I don't believe in it. It's horrible to your skin and your body. Basically, when they hit your skin with a laser, it's a blue and a red laser that they use typically, and it breaks that ink apart under your skin. You see, when we do a tattoo, the ink is a liquid, but when it heals up and settles under your skin, it becomes a very fine powder that bonds together. So they'll hit that with a laser, and it breaks it apart under your skin. When you ask them where it goes, say, "Oh, your body reabsorbs it." Okay, cool, but where does your body reabsorb it? Does it go to your kidneys and go out? Does it go to your liver? Does it go to your lymphatic system and become something horrible down the road? I don't know. So I use a product called Tattoo Vanish. Tattoo Vanish is a natural compound. It's been around for 7 years now. It was developed by a dermatology nurse in Vegas. And basically what happens is, I set up a tattoo machine like I'm applying a tattoo, but I dip that Elin lidocaine, and I go over the entire tattoo that they want to get rid of. After we've opened up the top 2 layers of skin with the tattoo needle, we take cotton swabs and apply the Tattoo Vanish gel to that skin area. Tattoo Vanish is very simple, and I really wish I would have thought of this because I'd be a millionaire right now. It's pharmaceutical grade saline solution and citric acid. It's salt and lemon juice on steroids, basically. What it does for that 10-minute period, it goes into that skin that's exposed and bonds to that tattoo ink under their skin. It bonds to that ink, and then I wipe it away in 10 minutes. Over the 2-week period that follows that, the body rejects it and pushes it back out to the surface of the skin. But because it bonded to the ink, it pulls the ink along with it to the surface of the skin. It forms a scab. In about 2 weeks, that scab falls off. The ink is gone. Generally, it's not a one-time, one-shot process. Most of the times, it takes us between 5 and 8 sessions to completely remove a tattoo. But the benefit is, it completely pulls the ink from their skin. It's not there anymore. It's not traveling around their body. There's no scarring that takes place. When you get laser tattoo removal, it's like basically like giving yourself a 3rd-degree burn. It blisters, it scars, it's horrific. So there's no scarring. And when you do laser tattoo removal, there's like a white halo or a white version of the tattoo. You don't get any of that with Tattoo Vanish. So that's why we use it. We also do cover-up tattoos. When it comes to sex trafficking, most of our stuff is removals. We try to encourage them to remove the tattoo because a lot of times they're on the hands, the neck, or the face. Sorry about that. If the tattoo is on the hands, the neck, or the face, we will only do a removal because we want people to be able to go out and get a job and support themselves, and McDonald's will hardly hire you if you have a tattoo on your face or your neck. But this tattoo was on her ankle. She was trafficked by the Imperial Gangsters on the south side by Cicero. And most times when we have a trafficking survivor and they opt to do a cover-up, I'll ask them, what do you want to cover it with? And they'll look at me like, I don't even care, just like put a black blob over it, just I don't want to see it. I'm like, well, I'm still an artist. I've been doing art my whole life, and I want to give you something that's positive, that symbolizes transformation and growth. And so I looked at this and I'm like, well, butterfly would be pretty easy. So we did that. She loves it. I just saw her 2 weeks ago, and she's doing fantastic. And her face is all healed up. It's completely gone too. We got new updated pictures coming on that soon. We did a documentary 3 years ago. We wanted to do something to kind of mark the end of that part of their journey. When they're dealing with the aftercare process of being rescued out of trafficking, you're talking about a process that's going to take the rest of their lives. The removing of the tattoo branding is a significant step, but it is just one step in that process. So we wanted to do a kind of a punctuation mark on it and close that out. And we wanted a way to remember them. So I painted a tree on an 8-foot by 8-foot canvas in the back of the shop where I do all my work. And every time I do a trafficking removal, they have the opportunity, it's not a requirement by any means, but nobody's ever said no. They can dip their hand in whatever color paint they want and put it up on the tree to portray leaves. And it's just a way for them to show other people that are going through the same situation, you're not alone. It's horrible that you're not alone, but you're not alone. There's thousands and thousands of victims. And the other thing they do is they have the opportunity to write messages on the other side of the board, because the first thing that happens when any time a survivor comes in with their agency, they've heard about this wall, and they go there before we ever sit down and look at the tattoo or fill out paperwork, and they read all those messages. And it proves to them, it shows, hey, you're not alone. There's others, and I want to be one. I want to be a voice now for the others and help prevent this thing. This young woman that you see here, I can't even say woman, she's the very youngest trafficking survivor that I've personally worked with. She was 13 years old. She's also the only trafficking survivor that I've ever worked with in my life that was kidnapped. Every other one was a runaway, they were homeless, they were out on the streets, different situations. She was the first one that was kidnapped. She was kidnapped from a shopping mall in Des Moines, Iowa, at a food court. I talk to my kids all the time about being safe. Talk to my kids about going to the mall. My now 18-year-old hated me for the last 2 years because I wouldn't let her go to Fox Valley Mall by herself or with her friends. Like, I know too much. I know too much. I've seen too much. And it's just about education and letting people know that this does go on. There are the fake modeling schemes and all this stuff. There's people that will follow you out to your car. Social media is a huge issue. My daughter Mackenzie came to me 2 years ago. She's 16 years old. I had just finished removing a sex trafficking tattoo that day, and when I remove one of those tattoos, a sex trafficking tattoo, I don't book anything else the rest of that night because it's extremely emotional, it's infuriating, and I have to process it. My daughter went to Oswego High School, which is directly behind my shop. She walked over that day and sat down and kind of let me be for about 30 minutes. And she said, "Dad, I have an idea. There's something I think you should add to the ministry or your work." I said, "Great, that's all I need is more work." I was kind of working myself into the ground at that time. And she said, "Well, based on what we've heard from survivors, based on what I hear when I go to events with you, different things we read, I know that pimps and traffickers will utilize social media to prey upon victims and recruit and groom victims, as well as gangs." I said, "Yeah, it's true." And she said, "Well, I think I think you should teach a social media safety class. Bring in kids and their parents and have a conversation about the safe use of social media, something that was meant for something great, as a powerful tool, has now been transformed and degraded into a power of evil by some, and just trying to make people aware of that and keep each other safe and not put themselves or their friends or their family at risk on social media." I kind of sat back in my chair and rubbed my head a little bit and looked at her and I said, "Mac, that's a great idea. I think you should do that." And at 16, her eyes got about that big. She looked at me and said, "Dad, I'm only 16, what can I do?" I looked at her and I said, "Nobody knows social media better than a 16-year-old girl." Truth? Okay. So then I told her, I said, "Don't worry about it. Let's do this. We'll teach it together." And she was cool with that. So we went and worked with the FBI Internet Crimes Division. They were great, and they still are great with us. They helped us build a curriculum. They help us alter it and bring in new things as we go along, as time goes. We've been teaching that class for the last 2 years together. It's brought us together in a great way. And it's really important for parents and kids to have that conversation, because I'm a minister, I work with youth groups, and I talk to kids all the time that on the outside look like they got it all going on and they're all good. And then I get to know them and hear the backstory and what's really going on in their life, and it's terrifying. So there's things that we can all do. That's what it's all about. Like I kind of talked about it a little in the beginning. There's so much going on in the world right now, right? But we all have gifts. We all have talents. We all have abilities. And we all have dreams, hopes, and goals. And hope is key. Because we live in a world right now where a lot of our world and a lot of our communities lack hope. So I think it's a little bit incumbent upon all of us to inject a little bit of hope. So, we can talk about things like this. This is amazing. The response tonight, you guys all coming out, is fantastic to hear about this. Because this is something that's going on right here in Aurora, Oswego, Naperville. It's happening everywhere. Whether it's the biggest city, the inner city, the rural areas, the suburbs here, it's huge everywhere. Be safe on social media. We had a situation with my